Dark roast takes coffee to its boldest stage. Many people think that means burnt or overly strong. But when it's done right, dark roast can be rich, hearty, and comforting. I'm Arata, a second-generation roast master. This is part 3 of my Beginner's Guide series, Light, Medium, and Dark Roast. By the end of this video, you'll know how to recognize good dark roast, how to brew it well, and most importantly, so you can really enjoy what dark roast has to offer. In dark roast, acidity steps back and bitterness becomes more noticeable. But flavors you taste still come from the beans themselves. A good dark roast can bring out dark chocolate depth, nutty richness, or even earthy herbal notes. But beans with lighter body and delicate nuances often lose those qualities when roasted this far, leaving the cup tasting only bitter and ashy. That's why roasters choose coffee with fuller body when planning a dark roast. The body isn't created by roasting. It comes from the bean. A strong-bodied coffee can hold on to its character even when roasted darker. And here's the tricky part. Not every bean can withstand being roasted this far. If the heat curve isn't handled well, the structure can collapse and the character disappears. That's when the cup turns hollow, just smoke and ash. But when it's done right, a dark roast still carries the fingerprint of its origin, layered with the depth of the roast itself. And this is where people often misunderstand dark roast. It isn't just one flavor called bold. One roaster may bring out chocolatey depth. Another may highlight earthy profile. Not all dark roasts are the same. And recognizing that difference is what helps you find a cup that feels rich and satisfying instead of flat and burnt. In most markets, you've probably seen coffee labeled simply as dark roast or French roast. But in roasting scale, there are more steps than that. At the lighter edge of dark is what's called the German roast. It's just past the medium, where most of the acidity has faded, but you may still find just a touch. Next comes French roast. This is darker with beans showing a light sheen of oil on the surface and a flavor that leans bittersweet. At the very dark end is Italian roast. Here, beans are glossy. The oil's a little bit heavier. And this level has long been tied to espresso because of its intensity. You might be wondering why country names are used to describe roast levels. Traditionally, each region had its own preference. Germany, lighter, France, darker, and Italy, darkest of all. Over time, those preferences became shorthand for roast degree. These names don't tell you where the coffee was grown. They describe how far beans were roasted. So, even if the bag only says dark roast, you now know there are degrees within it. Paying attention to where a coffee sits on a scale helps you figure out what kind of dark roast you actually enjoy. And it's not just about the label. Think about how you brew too. The same scale that gave us names like French and Italian also points to brewing styles. And that's part of finding the best dark roast for you. If you'd like a simple guide to help you choose beans across any roast level, I've made a free PDF you can download. You'll find the link below. Pour-over is a solid choice, no matter the roast level, because it gives you the most control. With dark roast, Adjusting your water temperature changes what you highlight in the cup. Slightly hotter water can bring out a cleaner aftertaste, while cooler water can emphasize sweetness. Grind size also affects how water flows, so both can change your results. What I like about pour-over is that it lets me decide how to approach the beans. Even with the same bag of coffee, I can shift the taste from one brew to the next by choosing which aspects to bring forward. If you'd like to learn how to make those decisions with pour-over, my course on Japanese-style pour-over covers them in detail. The link is below. French press is an immersion method, and this is where dark roast really shines. Because the beans are taken farther in roasting, they're more stable. That stability means they can handle longer steep time and hotter water without throwing wild sharp notes into the cup. Lighter or less developed beans can struggle in immersion. The slow extraction can push them into over-extraction. But dark roast holds steady and delivers the bold yet rounded cup people expect. Espresso, moka pot, and even AeroPress all aim for a more concentrated style. Dark roast has traditionally been the safe choice here because it can withstand the high heat and pressure. For a long time, Italian roast was the standard for espresso. And it makes sense from a roaster's point of view. Very dark beans respond well to high heat and fast extraction. And that concentrated intensity pairs beautifully with milk. But safe doesn't mean automatic. If you over-extract, you'll still pull out astringent bitterness. If you under-extract, even dark roast can taste sour. Done well though, these methods give you the boldest expression of dark roast. There are a few common mistakes people make with dark roast, and avoiding them make all the difference. Oil on the beans is a source of big confusion. The amount you see depends on how far the beans were roasted. French or Italian roasts naturally show more. The problem is that old beans can look oily too. So oil by itself doesn't prove freshness or quality. Just like you wouldn't rely only on color, you shouldn't use a surface oil as your only reference. Bitterness is another area where dark roast is misunderstood. People talk about it like it's all the same, but bitterness is what makes dark roast interesting. The bad kind takes over and ruins the balance. But good kinds are complex. Burnt sugar or caramel like bittersweetness, earthy depth, spicy tones, even woody or chicory-like edge. When it's roasted and brewed well, bitterness doesn't cover the flavor. It adds character. And there's also the idea that dark roast is always over-roasted and flat. It's true that pushing the beans too far can collapse the flavor. But flatness isn't unique to dark roast. If the heat isn't applied correctly, beans can lose their characters at any stage, even light or medium roast. What matters is how coffee was roasted, not just outside color. A good dark roast can be full of richness and depth, far from flat. And if you missed my beginner's guide to light roast, that video explains what happens when beans are roasted too little. Watch that next to see the full picture from light to dark. So that's dark roast. It doesn't have to be burnt or flat. When it's done well, it's rich, bold, and full of character. And now with light, medium, and dark covered, you've seen how each roast level shapes flavor in a different way. If you haven't seen my beginner's guide to medium roast, that's where I talk about why medium is often considered the balance point. You'll find the link on the screen. And together with the light roast video, these three will give you the full spectrum of what roast levels really mean. Everyone has their preference, but I'm curious where you land. Which roast level do you find yourself going back to the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful coffee day.